Tonight, subway attack. Multiple casualties in New York City after an underground shooting. Plus, soaring to new heights. Already sky-high inflation hits a new milestone. And hypersonic. America's race to catch up to advanced missiles developed by China and Russia. And in Ohio's Silicon Valley,
this really is the Super Bowl.
The multi-billion-dollar rescue plan to fix an alarming shortage of semiconductor chips. All this and more, next on Faith Nation.
Panic in the Big Apple. Good evening, I'm Jenna Browder.
And I'm John Jessup. Chaos erupting after a gunman broke loose on a New York City subway during the morning commute, shooting 10 people and putting 16 others in the hospital. Several victims listed in critical condition.
As crime surges throughout the nation, some say law enforcement is not doing enough. CBN's Brody Carter joins us with the latest. Brody?
John, Jenna, the normal hustle and bustle in the tunnels of New York City was halted by that violent gunman. Witnesses say they believe his gun jammed during the shooting. Still, the act of violence led to this shock and awe campaign. Panic underground in Brooklyn. Tuesday morning, passengers huddled together as gunshots rang out through the subway station. Police say the suspected gunman wearing a construction vest put on a gas mask, threw smoke bombs in a subway car, and started shooting. Smoke billows through this manhole brought the chaos to street level.
That took place this morning inside the 36th Street subway station on the N line. I want to begin by assuring the public that there are currently no known explosive devices on our subway trains, and this is not being investigated as an act of terrorism at this time.
Still, the commissioner maintained nothing, including terrorism, is being ruled out this early in the investigation.
This individual is still on the loose. This person is dangerous. They're asking individuals to be very vigilant and alert.
The hunt to track down the suspect produced quick responses from various New York police and fire, as well as federal enforcement agencies. The situation also exposing wounds of the city's growing violence.
We're seeing continued increases in violent crimes, shootings, murders, rapes, robberies, thefts, and more generally, just a culture of lawlessness.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams was elected, promising to clean up crime in the Big Apple. Tuesday's attack reminding the public just how far we have to go.
And we say no more. No more mass shootings. No more disrupting lives. No more creating heartbreak for people just trying to live their lives as normal New Yorkers.
At last check, police were searching for a U-Haul van with Arizona plates in connection to the shooting. There's still no word on the suspect's motive or how the gunman escaped that scene. Now, sources say they are using cell phone video from witnesses to help identify the suspect. Brody Carter, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Brody. Well, joining us now is Ralph Salento, professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice and recently retired lieutenant commander detective with the NYPD. Ralph, welcome to Faith Nation. Wish they were under different circumstances, but really appreciate you being with us today. First off, why do you think New York City officials were so quick to signal that it was not investigating this as a terrorist attack, even though we heard the police commissioner there say that she wasn't ruling anything out?
Well, when they start to investigate something like this, of course, they always look at terrorism. But early on in the investigation, they probably received or had some facts available to them that suggested that it was a lone person, not part of some bigger terrorist incident.
Yeah. So the shooting suspect, he was wearing a gas mask and a construction vest, as Brody mentioned, detonated smoke bombs. There were early reports today of detonated explosives. Those turned out to be false. But at the very least, Ralph, this seems like a premeditated attack. What kind of charges could the suspect face?
Well, there's a whole host of charges. I mean, we heard through open source intelligence about the vest and the gun. The construction worker vest could have just been to sort of disguise his access to the subway. As far as his charges go, he's going to be charged with multiple counts of attempted murder. And he's probably going to be charged with terrorist type of crimes, even though it doesn't fit the bill of what we consider a larger terrorist attack. But as the least of his worries is going to be multiple counts of attempted murder.
Ralph, right now, as we understand, the FBI is assisting the NYPD in this case. If it does turn out to be terror-related, even beyond, as you were describing, some of those terror-related charges, does this mean that the FBI would take over the investigation?
Well, the FBI doesn't necessarily take it over. When the FBI takes over a case, generally it means there's going to be a federal prosecution. So, of course, that's possible. But the NYPD, along with other large metropolitan police departments, have task forces like JTTF, the Joint Terrorism Task Force. And it's really an all hands on deck situation where until you know what you have, you don't know. So every single angle is investigated, including terrorism.
New York City has faced a surge in shootings and other violent crimes within the last year, including on the subways. Ralph, what is going on in the Big Apple? You know, it was just recently, called the safest city in America.
Well, I mean, it really has a lot to do with, I'm sorry to say, the political infrastructure of what's going on. I mean, I think it started under Mayor de Blasio, where we had this soft approach to crime. And you really can't talk about increased crime rates, which are out there also statistically for anyone to look at. This is reported data. So there is an uptick in crime. There is an uptick in subway violence. And it really comes back to the political landscape. Some of it has to do with the fact that the police don't feel that they're supported. Some of it has to do with the election of certain district attorneys, certain mayoral candidates. And it started under Mayor de Blasio, I'm sorry to say, where he had this soft approach to crime up to and including, which is not prosecuting fare beaters. Now, it's a little early on in the investigation to opine with any degree of certainty about how this person entered the subway system. But basically, people are wholesale jumping the turnstile, where in the past, in order to suppress crime and disorder, we wanted paying customers to use the New York City transit system. And the idea is that if you paid for your fare, that you're a legitimate citizen with no malfeasance in your heart, where really anybody's allowed to access the subway system now because the cops are not enforcing theft of services for jumping the turnstile. Yeah. And so so really anyone's coming on there, even people that have malfeasance in their heart. And so it's hard to monitor who's accessing the system, who are not paying customers. Now, later on in the investigation, of course, it will be determined whether or not this person was a paid customer of the transit system. And of course, he could have been a paid customer and have done this anyway. But the general sense is that the current political landscape is allowing crime and disorder to disrupt people's lives.
All right, Ralph Salento, we have to leave it there, but we appreciate you coming on this evening with your expert analysis. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ralph. Well, to the economy, inflation continuing its months-long stubborn streak of recent rising prices. Today's consumer price index hitting the highest level so far in the recent trend. Inflation soaring 8.5% over the last year. That's the biggest year-over-year increase since 1981. And prices rose 1.2% from February to March. The White House blaming the jump on the war in Ukraine and the ripple effect on gas and oil prices. Economists are concerned rising rates could drag the economy into a recession.
And for more on this, let's bring in Stephen Skanke, Chief Investment Strategist at Keel Point. Stephen, welcome. It's always great to have you on the show. So the White House, even yesterday, they were trying to get out in front of this, warning Americans just what was coming. Are these numbers even worse than expected?
Well, thanks, Jen and John. It's always great to be with you. The numbers are actually better than were expected. There was a fear that they could even be higher than 8.5%. And of course, the big driver was the gasoline prices, which were up 18% month over month. driving energy generally up 11% month over month, which is huge. The good news is that when we look at the core prices, they finally appear to be moderating with core CPI up by a more modest 3% month over month. And that also is a reflection of better availability of goods with some of the supply chain disruptions abating.
Well, speaking of monetary policy, the Federal Reserve, Stephen, has started already raising interest rates and is set to do so a half a dozen or more so times this year. Stephen, is that enough to combat inflation at these levels, or will it in turn make things worse for American consumers?
Well, it will certainly have an impact on the things that depend on higher interest rates. But it's interesting, John, because as we look at consumer spending, it continues to be strong. Consumer balance sheets are very strong. We even see business investment coming up, which is a reflection of a positive outlook within the business community. They don't invest in new employees, technology, and equipment if they have a negative outlook. There is a problem with energy. And to go back to part of Jenna's question, it is exacerbated by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Russia produces 12% of global energy. The United States in 2019 was a net exporter of oil. And we discovered after the invasion that we were actually importing Russian oil. And that creates a problem, certainly in the short term with energy prices that'll ameliorate over time, but it's also a reflection of policies that have reduced domestic energy production and made the United States and others more vulnerable to this sort of supply disruption.
Stephen, there was a bright spot in today's report, just a few seconds left. The so-called core inflation rose by only 0.3% between February and March. What do you make of that?
That's really positive news, Jenna, and it is a reflection of better supply, a reduction of supply chain disruptions, and a refocusing of consumer spending back into some of the traditional service areas that were being negatively affected by COVID.
Stephen, we are unfortunately out of time, so we'll have to leave it there. Stephen Stanke with Kill Point, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, tonight, a dead end. Russian President Vladimir Putin says peace talks with Ukraine are over. As the Russian military's bloody campaign in Ukraine drags on, Putin says the war will continue until Russia's goals are fulfilled. And as Russian forces build up in the east, the ongoing barrage of attacks are taking an especially heavy toll in the port city of Mariupol. Ukrainian officials say weeks of Russian attacks there have left at least 20,000 dead.
Coming up, a new arms race at warp speed. The urgency over a three-way contest between the United States, China, and Russia.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead, just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Welcome back. A dangerous new arms race is emerging as China, Russia, and the United States all pursue hypersonic weapons.
The U.S. recently announcing it will work with the UK and Australia to develop not only the missiles, but defensive measures as well. This as top military officials warn the world is growing more unstable and dangerous. National security correspondent Caitlin Burke has the story.
Back in September, the U.S., United Kingdom, and Australia created a security alliance known as AUKUS. The partnership is back in the spotlight after a recent announcement the three countries will collaborate to develop hypersonic technology.
You know, hypersonics are all the rage. And, you know, there's about 5 or 6 technologies that are really quite promising, but are also sort of the vogue, sort of the new thing to talk about when you're trying to sound like you're on top of it with defense modernization priorities.
Russia and China are also racing to develop these lethal weapons, missiles that can reach altitudes of up to 300,000 feet and are nearly impossible to detect. China tested such a missile back in October, and Russia claims to have used the weapons in Ukraine. While the U.S. is part of the hypersonic race, performing its own tests, foreign policy expert Michael O'Hanlon says this tech shouldn't be considered a radical game changer.
We already have lots of missiles that can penetrate Chinese or Russian air defenses. I just think hypersonics can do that job a little bit more confidently with, you know, so if you need to get 3 missiles through a defense system with existing weapons, you might have to send 10. With hypersonics, maybe you just send 4.
O'Hanlon says the real danger isn't what a hypersonic weapon can do. It's the confidence this technology could give one of our enemies.
It's about the perception as to whether they give some country a new advantage that it did not previously enjoy, and therefore make that country more willing to take risks and maybe even take the gamble of initiating a war or being willing to risk a war against the United States, because now it thinks it has a way to go after our Achilles heels.
Whether or not hypersonic weapons become the next arms race, the past 3 administrations have all agreed there's been a return to great power competition between the U.S., Russia, and China, and it's leading to an increasingly dangerous world. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Caitlin. A major chip shortage impacting tech development everywhere. When we come back, why Ohio may save the day.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy?
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times best-selling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts, in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. in Protect Your Brain. Get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
Semiconductors are crucial in our digital world. They're essential for powering an online economy, and they play a huge role in our nation's cyber defenses.
America, though, now faces an alarming shortage of these chips, but there's good news. A multi-billion-dollar rescue plan is underway. CBN's Heather Sells traveled to Ohio and brings us the details.
Intel's $20 billion investment will go in right here. Many see it as a sign that America's heartland is reviving, that those seeking high-tech jobs will not have to leave home for the coasts.
You don't win the game in the fourth quarter by just showing up then.
Kenny McDonald says Columbus business leaders have followed that game plan by calling semiconductor makers for 10 years, making the Intel deal all the more rich.
As somebody who's been an economic developer for over 25 years, this really is the Super Bowl.
The multi-billion-dollar investment is the largest economic development package in state history, and Intel's first new manufacturing site in 40 years. It means 3,000 new jobs that carry an average salary of $135,000, plus 7,000 construction jobs and more. Intel is committed to building 2 chip factories, or fabs, just outside of Columbus, near a new Albany business park, and the site can accommodate up to 8. In 10 years, Intel plans to reach that capacity with a total investment reaching $100 billion.
I think the final thing was we were hungry. You know, we wanted them to come.
Governor Mike DeWine is elated. As a lifelong resident, he is well aware of the decades of decline endured by his home state and the entire Rust Belt. Winning the Intel bid marks a renaissance moment.
It really sends a signal that Ohio and the Midwest is certainly in the game in regard to, manufacturing anything.
Until now, the heartland has found itself in the tech industry's rearview mirror. Mark Murrow at the Brookings Institution follows the tech geography.
It's not spread extremely widely. It's highly concentrated in a very short list of big coastal superstar metros.
Murrow says that's a problem for those in Middle America.
They're cut off in some ways from some of the most vibrant sources of jobs and social and economic mobility.
It's why the Ohio decision could signal that the tech industry needs and is capable of geographic diversity. Columbus area banker Laura Tussing says it could slow the flow of those leaving the state for better jobs.
People are going to be able to make career progressions and expand their businesses, within our state. They don't have to go somewhere else now.
This move could also provide much needed momentum for America's fragile semiconductor industry. That's the mentality that McDonald says kept his team going.
It wasn't just about Ohio. It was about solving a global issue and a national priority. And that got us through some tough days.
A shortage decades in the making is now underscored by the conflict in Ukraine and other supply chain problems. Thanks to offshore manufacturing and foreign competition over the last 30 years, the U.S. has watched its share of global semiconductor manufacturing drop from 37% to 12%. It's a profound loss given that semiconductors power the entire digital economy.
We're seeing very vulnerable, shaky supply chains right now, and it's disrupting the U.S. economy. It's contributed to the major inflation challenge we faced this year.
Of course, just one major investment won't solve the country's supply chain and national security issues, nor can they be solved overnight.
It shows the possibility, and it hopefully heralds further investment.
But it could put the U.S. on the right track, especially if Congress passes the CHIPS Act, which would provide some $50 billion to support this manufacturing at home. For now, McDonald and his economic development team have their work cut out for them.
It's a totally new game. So we got another field to run now, and we're on the 1 yard line.
The new game includes building the factories, sourcing and training the workforce, and creating communities around them that maintain a high quality of life.
We have a lot of work ahead of us, and we're just pumped up to do it.
If Intel succeeds here, not only could it mean a silicon heartland, it could shift chip production back to the U.S. and strengthen America's supply chains, economy, and national security. Reporting in Central Ohio, Heather Sells, CBN News.
Thank you, Heather. Historic, out-of-this-world mementos may be soon within reach. We'll explain next.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
Finally tonight, it's an auction out of this world. Tomorrow, several pieces of space history will be up for sale in New York.
That's right. Bonham's Auction House is steering the event, selling items typically not available to the public. One of the first items headed to auction, the first moon dust sample collected by astronaut Neil Armstrong in 1969. It's the first time NASA-verified moon dust will be sold legally. The estimated sale price, an astronomical $800,000 to $1.2 million. Jenna, if I had that kind of money, it would be a great baby shower gift for you.
Indeed. You know, I don't know what you do with moon dust.
You basically store it and display it somewhere.
That's going to do it for Faith Nation.
Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.